You know, you start to realize you're a real Canadian when you find yourself chatting about history while perched on top of a beaver dam. And that's what I did when I met up with Larry Tilander in July 2018 to talk about the mysterious Marlbank cement factory. Larry was brought up in Marlbank, lived in a house built by one of the cement factory workers, and had all sorts of stories to tell about the area. Before I go on, I better set the context. Marlbank is a small village in Ontario, Canada, between Toronto and Ottawa. Around 1900, a large cement factory was located here, using the marl, a clay-like substance from the bottom of this lake, as the raw material. The factory shut down in 1909, and a forest has grown up around the ruins of the old buildings and kilns. I have a cool video about the factory. Check out the link up here. So why are Larry and I on top of a beaver dam just north of Marlbank that was holding back about 10 feet of water? Well, Larry was busy trying to drain the pond that was starting to flood his and his sister's land. To my disappointment, he was doing it slowly, no dynamite. But we met at this location for a good reason. This clever beaver has actually built his or her pond at the site of a marl quarry, near the location of the first Marlbank cement factory, one that predated the plant I showed in my earlier video.
This is the dredge, is what they call it, because they dredged it out. I wish I could find any trace of the old kilns where my house is. Across the road from that is where they say the original kilns are, but there's nothing to find.
Yes, that's right. Marlbank once had a cement factory at the north end of the village, before the one on Dry Lake. There are no structures left from this first factory, but there are two interesting artifacts on the land owned by Larry and his sister. The first is this dugout area. You can see it roughly rectangular in shape, the result of digging out the marl in this and several areas nearby. The second visible remnant is the drainage ditch system, an extensive system of canals dug to drain as much water as possible off the marl banks to facilitate the marl extraction. Larry explained that even with the drainage, the clay-like marl couldn't support heavy machinery, so marl mats were constructed out of cedar rails to help spread the weight.
When I was a kid, there was a pile of what they called marl mats, about 4.5 feet high. And what they are, just they're cedar, they're almost like railroad ties, but longer, bound together by rods about 1.25 inches thick, and they would lay them on the marl so they could drive the little steam shovels and that on it.
But ultimately, the drainage system failed, the plant was flooded, and closed down. The whole operation was shifted a few kilometers southwest around 1889 to the shore of Dry Lake, where we can see the ruins of the enormous factory and the kilns. Larry clarified many things for me about the Dry Lake plant. First of all, Dry Lake is actually man-made. It was originally just a creek. In fact, this same creek we squatted on, surrounded by marl flats, just like this today. Water from the creek flooded the dredged out areas, creating the lake. And for this reason, the owner of the land actually owns the lake too, unlike most lakes in Ontario. Yes, it's actually in the land registry exactly that way. The lake, and of course the land, is actually private property. Even though there's lots of interesting things to see here, you must have permission from the owner to explore the land and even the water. Another interesting thing, the lines on the lake are not where the dredging occurred. In fact, the exact opposite. The lines are the last place where rail lines were placed, supported by wood trestles. The marl was dug out with steam shovels and carried back to the factory on these rail lines, which were relocated periodically to access more marl. So the strange lines are actually the only places on the lake that are not dredged out. Another interesting factoid. When the plant was abruptly shut down after the takeover by Canadian Portland Cement Company, workers apparently drove one of the so-called donkey trains, perhaps like this one, off the rails and into this weird round pond. I was able to zoom in pretty close for this footage, but I can't see anything in there. Locals are sure that this is where it is. By the way, a reminder that this is private property, so don't go poking around without permission. Last but not least, let's hear about Larry's family home, seen here in North Marlbank.
It was actually built by a guy who worked at the Marl plant, and he brought cement home every night and built the house out of it. And then just as he finished the exterior, he fell into the machinery at the Marl plant and got killed.
I would like to sincerely thank Larry Tilander for sharing his stories about the cement factory and for inviting me to this unique location for our chat. I'm sure there are many more stories to be learned about this fascinating chapter of Ontario history. Feel free to contact me if you have a story about the cement factory you would like to share. Thanks for your time. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the bell to be notified of new videos. Thanks again.